Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to The Practical Life. This is Ashley Nicole, and thank you for joining the live. Good afternoon. Hope everything is going well. Today we are going to get right into it with a with an important topic, y'all. Um, I'm not going to, do my intro or anything like that because this topic could be taboo. This topic could be sensitive for a lot of people, especially when you're talking about moms, right? But a lot of us, a lot of people out there grew up with a toxic mom, or and you are still dealing with a toxic mom. So, my goal today is to kind of give you some advice and some tips on how to deal with the behaviors of a toxic mom and kind of, how to manage those behaviors so that way you don't end up being a toxic mom yourself, right? And you'll have somewhat of, a peace of mind. So let's go ahead and get into it. I have my therapy couch here because some of y'all need to come sit on the couch. Okay. Some of y'all need to come sit on this therapy couch because this is a very big topic for you. You've been dealing with this for so long, and so you need someone to talk to. So, again, I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to manage these behaviors. So, before we get into all of that, though, what do we envision great moms being, right? That's what I kind of want to start off talking about. Like, what is a great mom? How do we know that we have an awesome mom or a mom that's not toxic, right? So, usually when we think of a great mom or a mom that we feel like we can count on and is there for us, does just that, right? They are nurturers, they are supporters, they give us the confidence, they kind of instill confidence in us so that way when we become adults, we are confident in doing whatever task we're doing or whatever we're trying to accomplish. We are confident in that, right? um I feel like, in my opinion, it is a mom's duty to do these things, right? And great moms also give you the tools to be able to know how to stabilize your emotions. So they give you that emotional stability, right? And this will help us throughout life because life, sometimes life is lifing and you got to know how to deal with it. But how do they give us all this? They don't just tell us, they don't tell us, they actually show us what it is to be a great mom. And usually when you have a great mom, or that you have a mom that's not toxic, you can feel that more than you kind of know, right? You feel that your mom is there for you. You feel like she's a person that you can go to for advice or wisdom, about life. You feel like you can go to her when you need or have questions about how to raise kids and things like that, right? So everyone probably has their own idea of what a good or great mom is to them. Or if you haven't, if you feel like you haven't experienced that, you kind of know what you don't want it to be like when you become a mom. So now let's again come on, sit on the couch. Come on, sit on the couch. This is your time. You are giving yourself some self care, especially if you are dealing with something like this, because it is difficult to deal with a toxic mom. Like, it will literally take over your life. And those of you that have experienced it, right, you know exactly what I mean when I say that, right? Now, all of those things that I just named of what a great mom is, or how do we know we have a great mom or a mom, that exhibits these positive behaviors, right? But some mothers don't have this, right? We also know that parents only parent us the way that they were parented, right? So sometimes parents just don't know. Sometimes they truly believe that what they are doing is the best for the child based on the way that they were raised. Because a lot of people feel like, well, this is how my mom did it, or this is how my mom said it, and I turned out just fine. But lo and behold, they're not just fine. Like they got their own issues too, you know what I mean? But parents only parent us the way that they were parented, right? But well, however, comma, however, comma, when you know better, you do better. So if there is something that you're doing and you see the reaction or response that you get from your child, even as an adult, child, right? And sorry, as an adult, right? If a parent or mom or dad sees something that they say or do and the reaction is not a positive reaction, or they can see that it kind of hurts you a little bit. They can see, and some, people need tough love too, but there are some things, the way that you say it or the way that you kind of go about doing it may not be the appropriate way. And so you have to dial it back a little bit. But some mothers don't have nurturing skills. Some mothers don't know how to support their kids. Some mothers don't know how to instill confidence, or they don't instill confidence in their children because they are not confident themselves, right? Some mothers themselves are not emotionally stable. They lack emotional intelligence. So if they lack it, how in the world are they going to give it to the child? Now, I know I talked about before that as a child, kids don't understand it. All we know is that this is, all children know is that this is what I need at this time. And they don't understand why the parents are not giving it. But as we become adults, we start to understand a little bit more. So now I'm going to give you some examples of behaviors that toxic moms may display, right? Now, in some of these categories, I'll break it down a little bit. But the first thing is that toxic moms shame you. They will shame you, they will blame you. And sometimes this will start in childhood, and most of the time it does, right? They may turn a molehill into a mountain, right? Small things are usually big things. They blame you for mistakes. They use phrases like you always or you never. Um, and they say this often to the child, right? So, and this can kind of go into adulthood as well. And I will get into how this will affect you as an adult too. The second thing that they do is they put a guilt trip on you. Baby, they will put a guilt trip on you like never before. Anything that is failing in their lives or they feel like it's failing, it's your fault. um, if they have certain expectations of you, right? For example, some families, there's a path that a child is supposed to go through, right? As they get older, such as going to college, such as, entering into a certain profession and things like that. If you don't do those things, if you don't live up to the expectations that they had for you, then they make you feel guilty about not doing that, right? This type of mom kind of plays the victim. Um, and they remind you again how you're never good enough, or you never do certain things, or you're always doing this when you should be doing this. Um, so guilt tripping. Also, toxic moms, they will compare you. Toxic moms, and sometimes, and like I say, sometimes this happens, like some of these things happen naturally, especially if you have a lot of siblings, or if you have one sibling, and usually it's the oldest sibling that has accomplished a lot or has accomplished what the parents wanted them to accomplish, right? They will start comparing you to this. Well, why don't you do this like such and such? Or don't you see that such and such is doing this and they're doing well? So almost like criticizing you in a way. And that is toxic, because what they are not realizing is that all of these things that are being said, you all know the saying of someone like pouring into you, right? Pouring positive things into you. Um what they're pouring into you are negative things, and they don't realize that it's those things are sticking to you. And ultimately, as you get older, when you become an adult, these are things that are going to kind of shape you, shape your belief system and how you view things, your viewpoint, your attitude, your perspective on things, right? But in the moment, they may not be thinking that, but these are some of the severe things that toxic moms do. Another thing they do is they ignore boundaries. And I'll give an example of, if you're an adult, right? They won't give you your space. A lot of toxic moms feel like they act as if their children are their best friends. A lot of toxic moms don't have a social life. And so, in turn, they go to their children to nurture that for them. Their children are the ones who are their friends. The boundaries are not there between parent and child. The boundaries are not there when it comes to sharing information with the adult, with their children. There is no boundary. Whatever, for example, whatever is going on with them and their spouse, or them and their, friendships, they are going to lean on their children to help them work through that if they're going through any challenges. So they ignore boundaries. Another thing they do is toxic moms invalidate your feelings, right? It's almost like you don't have a right to feel a certain way. Sometimes toxic moms can impose toxic positivity on you. Or I had a client one time where the mom did this, and the child was trying to express to the mom how they felt when they were growing up, and I think this particular thing was, the mom was not around, or, the mom didn't pay as much attention to this child as she did to the other children and things of that nature. And the mom would invalidate her by saying things like, oh, I don't know why you would think that, or it didn't happen that way, or may say altogether like, no, that didn't happen, I was always there, right? So they are invalidating the feelings or the perspective of the child. um what else? Toxic moms are controlling. They want to control the situation. They want to control your whole life. And a lot of times I think this is because they I don't think they necessarily had children for for them to be able to live out the dreams that they had. I don't think that's why they had children. But when they do have them, this is ultimately what they try to do. Get you to live out the dreams that they were never able to fulfill. So they try to control all the things that you do, right? Try to make decisions for you, and things like that. Um, I already mentioned that they make you feel guilty. A lot of toxic moms, y'all, they will, and it depends on the family culture, right? Because there's a lot of families that I've seen where it's the norm to kind of joke with each other, to kind of joan on each other, right? Um, and it kind of helps the family, let their guard down. And this is the family norm. This is the culture of our family. This is just what we do, right? Um, but sometimes toxic moms, they will humiliate you in front of others, right? They'll talk about what you have on, almost like they'll talk about you as if you were not there. And it's not positive things, it may be negative things, something that they don't that you do that they don't like, or what they wish you would do. And they do this in front of other people, so you feel kind of embarrassed, you feel humiliated, but they have broken you down in such a way to where you don't feel confident enough to stand up for yourself, or you may fear standing up for yourself because of whatever the consequences might be. And some of the consequences might be that the mom will will do silent treatment, right? And so instead of going through that, because again, you think this is my mom, you know what I mean? You don't want to have that kind of relationship, then you won't stand up for yourself. But that will also play out into other areas of your life, in other relationships, in your workplace and things like that, because this is the place that you learned it. So you're going to display that type of behavior for yourself in other places or other areas of your life as well. So the next thing that I want to talk about is, if you do have a toxic mom and they do some of these things, how will it make you feel, right? What effect will those things have on you as an adult? Well, the first thing is that you may feel shameful, right? You may have, for example, you going out with a friend or a friend group or whatever, and they talk about great experiences with their mothers or their parents, right? They have all these great stories, all these sentimental stories, and you don't have that, right? You feel like you don't have those things, you don't have these stories, so you feel shameful about the behavior that your mom displays, or the type of relationship that you have with your mom. You will feel like you're not good enough at anything. Even if you try to convince yourself when you're doing something, you're always going to have something in the back of your. It's almost like the toxic mother, their voice is always in the back of your head, giving you that self-doubt, right? Giving you that self-doubt, giving you that little voice that's saying, "Oh, you didn't do that right," or "You could have done that better." Does anybody relate to this? Has anybody ever had this type of experience? Sometimes people who have a toxic mom don't feel like they deserve to be loved. Right? And how awful is that, for you to go around, because of the way that you were raised, because of the actions that your mom took, because of the decisions that they made, right? That you go around feeling like you don't really deserve to be loved. And it may not be that you may not understand it at the time, but when you really think about it and go through some of the tips that I'm going to give you all soon, you'll say, "Oh my gosh, like this has been the issue in a lot of my relationships. Like I don't feel like I deserve it," right? Based on the way that you grew up. Um, and the last thing I have here about that, of how it will make you feel, is that you may feel guilty for wanting more out of life. And this goes back to the toxic mom who who wants their children to live out the dreams that they were never able to fulfill. Because then you feel guilty about not doing what the toxic mom envisioned you to do, right? or if you're doing something that is totally out of the range that they would do, being open and receptive, trying new things, maybe your mom is not an outdoorsy person, but you are, right? You like to go rock climbing, you like, just different things, and the mom is really not into that. You may feel guilty for being interested in certain things just because the mom doesn't agree or doesn't find that appealing for your life. Now, some people that have a toxic mom, these are some of the characteristics they might have. And I'm not saying that everybody, right, that had or was raised by a toxic mom or is still dealing with it will have these characteristics, but these are some that they may have, right? So you may find that a person is very rigid. They're rigid in their thinking. They are rigid with their routine. They may have experienced or struggle with eating patterns. So some of them may have eating disorders. And a lot of times with eating disorders is to fulfill a certain, void and things like that. A lot of people are emotional eaters, things of that nature. You may find people who have experienced behaviors, from a toxic mother, that they are dealing with addiction issues, right? And this will go back to eating behaviors because some people are addicted to food. There are food addictions, right? Yeah, I have my coffee here because I didn't have my coffee today, and I felt like I needed a cup. um. So yeah, so some people, they may have the characteristic of being, um, or most likely being addicted to substances and things of that nature. And this is a big one. So, individuals who have experienced a toxic mother, they may be more competitive when it comes to other women, right? They may not say it, or uh, you may not even really think that they're that kind of person, but in their mind, they are really never rooting for another woman to get ahead, or they just may be a little bit more competitive in nature with other women. And it's almost because, when you're dealing with a toxic mom, it's like you are against each other. It's almost the mom is competing with you. So it's kind of like a learned behavior, right? These people also may have a high tolerance for being treated poorly by others because, again, the mom is supposed to nurture you, right? The mom gives you that emotional stability and shows you how to respond to things, how to react to challenges, and things like that. So, if that's what you learned from her, right, that it's okay for someone to treat you like that, for a toxic mom to kind of break you down in a way where your confidence is not there to kind of stand up to that type of behavior, then you're going to think it's okay for somebody to treat me like that, right? They may have trust issues, right? Because once you realize that you are dealing with a toxic mom, it's almost like you can't really trust what they say. You can't trust what they do. You can't trust them to treat you properly because now you know better, right? So if you can't trust the mom, who can you trust? And this is the last thing. This is the last characteristic. And this is the, it may be more uh may be more characteristics because every person is different, every situation is different, right? But you may end up not really knowing or having your own belief system. You have somewhat adopted what they believe. And you've adopted their viewpoints, right? How they view life, things of that nature, right? So it's almost like you kind of lose yourself or never really understand yourself as an adult. If you were raised by a toxic mom, you never really fully understand you or get to know you because you've been in this toxicity for so long. So let's get to the good part, right? Right? What are some tips? How can you, and I think I put five, but this is going to be more than five, y'all. But what can you do? Like, how do you deal with a toxic mom? And um how do you deal with a toxic mom? Trust issues. Hi, Pastel. Thank you for joining the live. Um, Now, and sometimes too, the biggest thing I'm going to say is to go to therapy. Overall, that is the number one thing that you need to do, right? You got some people who have experienced a toxic mom, you can afford not to go to therapy because your life is in shambles. I can tell you that right now. If you were raised by a toxic mom, your life in shambles. You cannot you have to be in therapy. You gotta be because you don't know if you coming or going, especially if you still dealing with it. Especially if you still dealing with it. Um, but one of the things I have here is that you have got to realize that your mom is your mom and she's not going to change. Now I know some people say, "Oh, okay, I'm a therapist. Of course, I believe in change, and people can change and things like that, right?" But you have got to first recognize what the issue is. And a lot of toxic moms, they are not willing. They are not willing to take accountability for being toxic. So then I come to the conclusion that so then the question becomes, are they willing to change? Are they willing to change? And sometimes you have those moms that are so toxic that they are not going to change. So you yourself you're going to have to realize that, right? The second thing is that what I have rolling on the screen here, you've got to reconnect with yourself and give yourself some self love. You've got to be heavy on the self care because, again, a toxic mind will break you down to the point where it's almost like you don't even know yourself. You don't know what you like. You don't know what you're interested in. You probably haven't tried, you're not open to trying new things, right? A toxic mind, I'm telling you, a toxic mind will break a person down, right? And it will definitely get a person to a point where they are not emotionally stable. But like Pastel said, therapy is the key because what you're going to have to do is, and the bottom line is, you're going to have to act as an adult and realize that, okay, this is the way that I was raised, but now I'm an adult. So basically, like, what are we going to do about it? Because I can't change her. I can't control what she does. I can only control what I do. I can only control my behavior, right? And if I want things to change within myself, then I'm going to have to make the changes on my end. So, the fourth thing I have here is to choose yourself. And that includes going to therapy. That includes, again, being heavy on the self-care. Whatever you got to do to manage those feelings that you have and basically kind of get off that roller coaster that they have you on. You've got to be heavy on the self-care. And the next thing is, how can I put this? So when you have a toxic mom, they everything you do is not good enough for them in their eyes. Or everything is, you could have done it in a better way, right? And sometimes they don't even have to say those exact words. It's the look that they give, right? It's the reaction that they have, it's how they respond, right? So then everything you do thereafter, you are seeking validation from them. You want them in some way to show you that what you are doing, what you did is good enough. But I'll tell you, it only take one time for you to feel like or hear that you weren't good enough for it to go downhill from there. Everything else that you do is never going to be good enough. It only take that one time for you to feel like that, right? But again, you got to act as an adult and stop looking for the validation from the toxic mom, because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. And this is really in general, right? Because not only will you be looking for validation from the mom, you're going to be looking for validation elsewhere. That's in relationships, from your boss, from your managers, right? If you are self-employed, you're going to be looking for validation from your customers, right? You're always looking for someone to say, "Oh, you did a great job. Oh, you did that so well." Hold on for a second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so you're always going to be looking for validation, but you are not going to get it. You're going to have to, this is why therapy is so important, because you're going to have to figure out ways to validate yourself. And that is one of the ways, right? Taking care of yourself. Let me go to therapy. Let me figure out how to learn effective coping skills, and figure out really how to live my own life. Um, and that includes changing, your mindset, right? Changing your mindset. The mind can control a whole bunch of stuff, right? You just have to work hard at changing what the negative thoughts, and changing the viewpoint and the perspective about what's going on. You're going to have to accept that mom is mom and you are you, right? It's two totally different people. And I say this all the time. Sometimes I think that toxic moms don't realize that our children are a gift to us. They are not ours, right? They have to grow up and live their own lives. And really, we don't have anything to do with that, right? We don't have anything to do with that. They are truly, the reality is that they are a gift, and you have an assignment, right? To raise them, right? And take care of them and nurture them. But again, some moms don't have that, right? But you're going to have to accept that mom is mom and you are you. So you're basically learning you again. The next thing, this is a big one. Let go of what you thought your mom should have been. A lot of times people live in a fantasy land, and you done watch so much TV about with these shows that they done came up with, and how the mom is, doing such a nurturer. The mom don't do no wrong. The mom is perfect. It's perfection, right? The day I realized that, right. You see, the mom is perfection, right? But you're gonna have to let that go. You're gonna have to let that go of what you thought your mom should have been. And then too, to think about, where does that idea of how your mom should have been, where does that idea even come from? Like, where did you get that from? Is it something that you just wished for? Is it that this is just what you think a mom should be like? Have you really have you observed someone being another mom, like being a certain way? Um but most of the time we are in fantasy land, and really too we forget that moms are humans. And that's why I go back to, parents only parent us the way that they were parented. That they only know what they know. There is no book or anything to parenting, but however, comma, when you know better, you do better. And a mom knows, I don't care what nobody say, as a mom, seeing other moms, as a mom, when you have displayed behavior or you have said something that hurt your child. You moms know that. You can feel it, right? So if you know that, again, when you know better, you do better. But see, toxic moms are not even aware. They don't have the emotional intelligence to even be that self-aware. It's almost like they just going with the motions, right? And that's why I say all the time too. And some people get mad when I say this, that it's a huge difference between somebody that plans on having children, like, it's actually planned out with you and your spouse, okay, and you can't control everything, but this is the route that we're going to go, right? You plan them, you already figured out, where the kids gonna go to daycare, like you have it all figured out because you are planning, right? And again, after, even if you plan, you still might not have all the answers. You still might make mistakes, but those mistakes that are very, those grave mistakes, you're not going to most likely not make those because you are planning. You've read the books, you didn't went to the classes and all of this stuff, right? Aside from a person who is just going through life willy nilly and just having kids, you see what I'm saying? I hope I'm explaining myself well, but again, you got to let go of what you thought your mom should have been. The next one I'm getting ready to say, write this down. You got to write this down. Stop using your mom's failures as an excuse for yourself. I always hear a lot of people say, well, I do this because if my mom, because my mom did this, or if my mom wouldn't have did this, then I wouldn't be this way. Again, you got to grow up. You're an adult now, right? So you got to stop using that as a crutch for not being able to do what you want to do, for not being able to meet your goals, right? Stop holding on to what your mom did not do. And you, believe me, your life is going to feel, you're going to feel so free, right? Because you are not holding on to her toxicity, right? The next thing is that you may have to walk away. And a lot of people don't want to do that, especially, and I'm going to say it, especially Black people. Oh, no. Walk away from the mama? Oh, no. Not talk to your mom again? That's that's unheard of. It's almost like you are saying to yourself, no matter how, because it could be anybody, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, whatever. You are saying to yourself, if they are toxic, that it's okay for someone to treat you that way. That it's okay for someone to break me down. It's okay for someone to say something that hurts my feelings. It's okay for someone to not have any boundaries with me. And you may not realize it, but this is why you got to go to therapy. It's going to spill over in other areas of your life, and you truly will feel like it's okay. And then don't have kids because you're going to be the same way. If you don't become self aware, and if you don't realize, okay, this is what it was, and this is what I'm going to have to change so that way I don't become a toxic mom, you're going to be the same way with your kids. Believe me, you're gonna be the same way. So you might have to walk away from your mom if she is that toxic. Now, walking away may not mean her being out of your life, but you're going to set up boundaries with your mom, and she ain't even gonna know it, right? That might mean instead of talking to your mom 20 times a day, you might only talk to her once a week. Because every time you talk to her, it's always something. It's always criticizing. It's always, if you want to FaceTime, it might be, oh, you need to lose weight. It could be anything. It's always criticizing. It's always invalidating your feelings. It's always, you got to be the listening ear, but she's never the listening ear. So instead of you putting yours, and then you may have had a good day, and then all of a sudden when you get on the phone them 20 times, it's like, your day has gone to ish. Right? So instead of talking to her 20 times a day, it may only be once a week. And in your mind, it's okay, let me make sure everything's okay. Let me check on her, make sure she's fine, how things go, and then that's it. That's your once a week call, right? You might have to get to the point where you say, okay, I'm a little bit busy, mom. I'm gonna call you back. Now, it is not, I don't want to say it to where it's kind of like you're lying to your mom, but you're going to have to put up a boundary. And some moms are so toxic to where right off the bat, you might not be able to say, I don't want to speak to you right now, or you may not even have the confidence to say that. So you may have to say other things like, okay, mom, I'm busy with work. I'll call you later. Right. And when you get to a certain point where you're doing that and you're basically cutting the conversation off, and you're only talking once a week, they'll get the hint. And they're going to, toxic moms will get in their feelings because they think it's all about them, and they will stop calling you. And they don't even know that that's what you want. So you're going to put up a boundary that they don't even know about, right? Also, you're going to put up a boundary within yourself. When you do talk to your mom once a week, if that criticizing starts, if the invalidation of feelings starts, if the listening ear has to now always be you during the conversation, and you can't lean on your mom for that advice, nurturing, wisdom, but they're leaning on you for it. Once you get that trigger of that, then right, then you are going to cut the conversation off. You're going to end the call. That's putting up a boundary with yourself, because you are no longer allowing your mom to do that to you. And now that I think about it, it don't even have, this video is just about toxic moms, but this could be toxic anybody, toxic brother, toxic sister, toxic grandmother, toxic friend. Right? It's almost like they will drain your energy. They're draining you. They're using you as a resource. But then when you think about it and you look at the situation, you can't really use them as a resource. They're always calling you when they feel down, when they don't know where to turn. But then when you feel like that, right? All of them, all of them. But when you feel like that, you look up and you're like, dang, who can I call? Nobody. So you're going to have to put up that boundary. You're going to have to put up the boundary, right? So, like I said, toxic moms will definitely put you in a space where your your life is in shambles. So you cannot afford not to go to therapy. You have got to get in therapy. And in my description box, I will have a link for you all for online therapy. Or I think virtual therapy is best, because especially now with the times and things like that. But I think it's giving an opportunity for people who are a little bit fearful of starting therapy to be able to kind of get a feel for it, right? Get a feel for it. You're not obligated to one therapist. If you feel like, oh no, this is not working. And this is if you go to therapy face to face too, right? You find someone, you say, oh no, I don't think this is gonna work. You just go to the next one, try somebody else. At least you've gotten in the habit of talking to someone, of talking about it, right? Now, another thing I wanted to mention is that toxic mothers can also be passive aggressive. And that is like the worst thing. Somebody being passive, like that to me, for me, that grinds my gears. When somebody is passive aggressive, I don't like that. I don't think anybody likes it, but it really grinds my gears when someone, because it's the tone. It's the tone in which they say something. And you can off the bat tell that it's very passive. It's almost like a nice nasty. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like the person doesn't scream or yell, but the tone in which they say something rubs you the wrong way. And parents don't realize, especially toxic mothers, like that will that'll mess with a child the way that they develop, and things like that. But yeah, that's a whole nother that's a whole nother story. And then also too, toxic moms, they'll gaslight you. They'll make you think that something is happening when it's not happening. And again, make you feel guilty about what's going on. And so you question yourself like, okay, well, maybe I probably should have did that. I probably should have, no, I didn't say that the right way, or no, I probably could have done better, right? When really, when you think about it, you did your best. But it's always about them. So you can kind of put them in the narcissistic category. You know what I'm saying? It's always about them. If it's not about them, if they don't have that spotlight, then it's a problem. It's a problem. Yeah, so y'all got to get up out of here. Again, I wanted to talk about toxic moms. I'm glad you all were able, whoever joined the live, was able to come in and sit on the couch. Next week, I gotta see what days I'll be able to go live next week. I know I said this week I was going to try to go live every day. Child, didn't happen, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna roll with it. Um, so yeah, I hope this live was able to kind of give you value. If so, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you share. I know it's a lot of people who are dealing with this, a lot of people who are experiencing this still and don't know how to deal with it, don't know how to manage it, and don't even know where to start, honey. But I think the biggest thing is really, taking care of yourself and going to therapy, putting up those boundaries with yourself to say, okay, this is it. I'm going to put up an invisible boundary to where they don't even know what's going on, and start kind of, dialing back a little bit. And like I said, you're going to be you don't think it'll happen, but it will. Give it about a week. Give it about a week. If you start giving those excuses of, okay, I got to do this, I got to call you right back, or I'm doing this, they will stop calling you, and they're going to find somebody else to try to get that attention from, right? Because it's draining you and giving them, all the energy. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you enjoyed this live. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you all. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye.